In this video, I'm going to go over how to manually digitize a letter. Manually digitize, or as some people are going to call it, old-fashioned digitizing. Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to call it is fine with me. In this way of digitizing it, we're actually going to place, I don't want to say we're going to place every stitch because we're not. We're not going back quite that far. We're going to go back to just basically using two stitch types here to digitize this A that I have on the screen. And by the way, this A, we're going to be digitizing it as if we're going to stitch it at 1 inch, and that will make a difference on some of the decisions we make. So to start out with, we're going to path everything about this A, and we're going to assume that this A is connected to a letter on each side. So we're going to start it as if we're coming from a previous letter, entering this A, and then exiting the A into another letter, and we'll kind of assume that we're not trimming here, so that we're actually going to be stepping over to the next letter. So what we'll do is we'll start in the lower left hand corner, and we're going to end in the lower right hand corner. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my tool here, and I'm using the Floriani digitizing software. I'm going to use two tools. I'm going to be using the running stitch tool and the classic column tool. Now, if you're using different software, you'll have to kind of translate that a little bit. This video is not about the tools, but is about the technique of digitizing. So we're going to start out here with a running stitch. And if you remember, I said we're going to be entering this letter right in here. We're going to assume that we're just stepping from a previous letter. So we're going to start out this we're going to do everything manually. Remember that. So we're going to start out with our running stitch. We're going to step into this letter, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put some underlay under this, as if our software was not going to do any of that for us. So we'll go ahead and place some underlay under this. On the wider side here, I'm going to add a couple extra rows, and then on the skinnier leg here, we'll just go down each side. And we're going to go across the crossbar here and back down to where we started, right like that. Now I'm going to right click. That actually forms our stitches, so you can see that. So the next thing I'm going to do here is we're going to put the little foot on this A, the little serif here, and I'm going to zoom in on just that part of it so we can get a better idea what we're doing here. Now we ended right here, and we got to remember, if our machine was stitching this, it would have stitched around here and would have ended right here, and it's waiting on us to tell it what to do next. And we're going to select the classic column tool here. So what we're going to do here is the classic column is, I'll show you how that works. We're going to plot four points here. Just like that, I'll right click, and that forms a column stitch, and the stitches go in the direction that I plotted the point. So this was a 1, this was my second point here. That direction there actually determines the direction of the stitch throughout the rest of the column. The third and fourth point here actually determine where that column ends. So that's the way that tool works. So we ended there, and the reason we ended there and not over here is if we'd have ended over here, we'd have had nowhere to go without doing a trim or something and coming back into our letter. So what we'll do at this point is I'm going to start down here with my 1, 2 there, 3 and 4. That's the order that I put the points. And where the 4 is where the ending of that column is, which is I wanted to end right here because I want to continue on with this leg of the A. So I right clicked, and then we can see those stitches. So now that we've got that part done, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to come up this. I'm going to put this crossbar in here because I want this crossbar of the A to be tied in underneath the two legs. I think that's going to look best. So now that our machine is actually stitched to this point, remember, we got to control all this ourselves. So we're going to go back to the running stitch. We're going to step out here into the middle of this column, step up here, and we're going to step over here. Now I'll right click. Now our machine has stitched from here over up to here, and then over to this point over here, and this is where we're going to start another classic column to do the cross member of this A. Now since this A again was 1 inch, it's a decent sized letter. It's not really big, but we're going to treat it as it's going to be used on the bigger side, and instead of just putting a column stitch that just connects these two, we're going to actually tie these two together a little better, and I'm going to use that with the classic column tool again. I'm going to go in here and plot our points to be a little bit different than what we might expect, because I want this column to actually tie into this corner piece. As you can see, we don't just have our stitches starting at these points here and ending over here. We've got them actually overlapped into here, and I adjust the angle of the stitches so that these stitches will merge together and won't leave a gap in this area right here and over here. So that's the reason I did that. So now that we've done our classic column across here, we've finished right here where our marker is. That's where our stitching now stops, and we need to continue on. I'll go back up here and get our running stitch tool, and we'll just come down this with just a couple running stitches, and we'll go back and get our classic column tool, and I'm going to zoom out. And now we're going to do the leg of the A, and I will do that. There's 1 and there's 2, 3 and 4, right like that. I'm going to right click, will show us the stitches. We'll get zoomed in here just a little bit more. And the reason I stopped there is we now have to determine how we want to connect these two legs together. In this case here with a 1-inch letter, I'm going to select a technique to tie these together using overlapping stitches instead of putting a cap on this. So what we'll do is we're going to start a new column stitch at this point, and I'll plot the 1 here and the 2 over in here. The second point will be over here, and the reason for that is we want it to overlap this wider column that we're going to come down here with. So we've got the 1 here, 2 there. Our third and fourth point is going to go here, and the number 4 I'm going to drop down off the top to compensate for some embroidery push in this overlap. That will keep the top of this A from getting too tall where the overlap is. I'll right click and we can see the stitches that we've now made. So this area right of the point here will be all overlap when we do our wider column down the right leg of our A. So I'm going to get back over here zoomed in so you can see exactly what we're going to do. We're going to continue on with our classic column tool, and we're going to plot our 1 there, a 2, not A2, but the second point over here, and then we're going to come clear to the bottom down here like this, and again at the bottom where these two merge together, we're going to create some tie-in stitches so that these stitches meet at a better angle. And we'll do that just like that. I'll right click. As you can see, our stitches now started at the top. They're going to come down all the way down here, and we're going to form this little bit of a change of direction here so that when we put the foot on our A, these stitches will tie together better rather than as we go across here, these stitches would just open up a large gap right across in this area here if we didn't feather these stitches together a little bit. So there's where we ended there. We want to finish off our column here and end down in the lower right hand corner, assuming there's a letter that we want to step over into. So we can just continue on with our classic column tool and put a 1, 2, and then the 3 and the 4 there, and that defines that area. When I right click, it generates the stitches for that. As you can see, if we zoom in a little bit down here where these come together, these stitches, if we'd have brought this straight down, this could have opened a gap across here. These stitches now will pull on different stitches, and our gap would be much smaller because it would be between each stitch, and we will not be showing the fabric through there just as we did up here. These stitches merge together much better that way. That's kind of an old-fashioned digitizing technique, but can really help clean up a letter. So that's how I would digitize this letter manually. That letter, like I say, is about 1 inch tall, would probably sew well on up in size 2 to a point where this column on this side may get too wide, and wherever that would be, I'm not sure. But that's the techniques for overlapping that I would use, and the feathering of the letters together where they intersect. Now you'll notice we didn't do that over here, but if you think about the order of stitching, we did the foot first, these second. There would not be any gap in there because these stitches were already finished. Embroidery push would push this column down into these, and there would not be any gap there, so we don't need to worry about it there. That's why we didn't do it there. So the order is very important. Now, we've done this all manually. As you can see, the program has went ahead and added some underlay for us, and that can be a good thing. We can go in and change it. So this kind of merges the old way and the new way. Now that we've digitized it manually, we still have all the capabilities. If we want to go in and adjust density, we would just real simple. I'll show you how to do that. I'm just going to grab everything here, and I'm going to change my density to 0.38 and apply that. And that's a more realistic density for this letter. I'll turn on the 3D view and you can see how this overlap up in here worked. That's something you're not going to see out of any automated digitizing programs. They're not very good with overlap in a case like this. They don't do this feathering effect that you see here. This would actually stitch out real nice. So this kind of combines the old way of digitizing and gives us all the features that's available with the newer software. So hopefully you find that video helpful, and look for another video of digitizing this same letter at a smaller size. And what we'll do there is we're going to explain why we've changed some of the techniques that we have based on the size of the letter. So I hope this helps everybody out.